Francois, episode
How's it
4.
going?
How are you? Good, and you?
Doing well.
You look like a rock star, hey? That jacket is nice to see you. Oh, wow. I think after every conversation, like I said, I walk away and then I go chew on a few things. But I kind of have to just tell you a little story. I had a meeting earlier this week with a bunch of leaders about a project that we want to go forward with. But we were just not on the same page in terms of the foundations that we spoke about before and the governance of that. And that whole meeting kind of went haywire and down the drain. And it kind of left me afterwards like, what just happened? And it took me a few days to realize. I didn't understand during the meeting what was happening, but it took me a few days afterwards, and I realized that the foundation was shaky and the governance of it was like, we just couldn't go forward starting to do anything because the training wheels was not really sitting well. And that was something that just came from that conversation. For me, it was like, okay, but now I can see it because we've spoken about it. I can kind of pinpoint that this happened. But anyway, so today we're going to speak about intimacy.
Well, I think it just all flows into the same thing. You can't get away from it. So intimacy, we've spoken about intimacy, we touched on it a little bit, but I want to get back to your story. And so we spoke in our last episode, we spoke about getting the scroll, the calling from Father. And so it is a lot of the time, it is really exciting connecting with people that have the same calling. There's an energy around it. You feel affirmed. You feel like you're not crazy. You're not in this alone. It's the same reason why Father partners with people, because it's not fun to do things alone. But then just having the same calling does not mean it's going to be successful. And so that is probably what happened there. And so if we just look at our last episode, it is really about thinking about what is the next step. So you get the scroll from Father, the plan he's got, you agree to it, which is now your calling. Now you meet up with people who have the same calling. Now the next step is to govern that so that you can get to the blueprint, so that you can get to the action plan, which is manifesting it. But if you don't govern well, like in marriage, you will not have the fruit of marriage, which is life, which is children. You will not have a good relationship. And so that is where the intimacy comes in. And so we need to understand partnership. We need to understand government from a place of intimacy. And so Father says, don't unequally yoke yourself with an unbeliever. And so we really need to understand unbeliever is not just somebody that has a different source of supply or God, if you want to give it that name. It is about somebody that is not even on the same intimacy level with Father, not on the same trust level with Father. And so you need to ask, where do they govern from? What is their foundation? What is their building blocks? What is the sustenance they draw into their lives? Which is the belief systems at the end of the day. And so don't unequally partner with people, even though they have the same calling. It's like with Father, he does not just reveal to you his intimate secrets. You need to build a relationship with him. It needs to come to intimacy. So build relationship with the people you are going to draw into your bench, into your government. Because if you sit on the governmental bench of your nation, the president, the vice president, whoever is in the cabinet, he trusts those people with his life. And so you need to be able to trust people with your innermost secrets, or be able to trust them. You don't necessarily have to share it with them, but you need to know that they have the character, they have the intimacy, they have the foundational beliefs, principles, they respond, they do not react, they live from rest, in essence, in Father. Then you can build. Because if you have a tripod with unequal lengths in legs, it falls over, even though it's a tripod. We normally use tripod as the measuring stick for saying it is not a single pillar or it's not a bipod. But a tripod, if it's not equal in length, it also is unstable. And so it's bringing in people into your government who are willing to govern well. And so intimacy is what? Intimacy is basically unconditional trust, because unconditional love has been established. But what is trust really? What is intimacy really? It is total trust when you have your guard down. So you don't have to protect yourself. That is what intimacy is. You're basically naked in a space where people can see everything you are. But you don't allow everybody to see you naked, because people will slander you. They will slander you, they will scandalize you, and that is dishonor. And so it's the environment of honor. And we know that honor connected with thanksgiving or praise is it's a combination to bring manifestation of heaven on earth. Every time Jesus broke bread and fed the 5,000 and 4,000, it was first honor for what was given from Father. So he got the blueprint from heaven, and then he gave thanks for it, and he put it into action, and it just multiplied in abundance. And we spoke about building from heaven into the earth always produces abundance. It's the same with the Israelites. They brought precious stones and gold and silver to build the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy of Holies, and they brought it in abundance. There was more than enough. And so every time we present something in the earthly realm that partners with the heavens, it creates that. And that's intimacy. And so it is in connecting with Father. So intimacy is creating trust. But trust comes through people taking responsibility, taking ownership, taking accountability, and being transparent. And so it is continuously being teachable, continuously being humble. It's the fruits of the Spirit. And so that is the environment of, and so that is what we facilitate at the end of the day. So the question that we need to ask is, how does this connect with money? Right?
Yeah, because how do we get intimacy? And just on the topic, I realize now while you're speaking, but that is why the meeting was wobbly. That is why we couldn't move forward, because first of all, I think individually there wasn't an understanding of the blueprint of the foundation, and that is why we couldn't govern it. But that is because there probably wasn't trust, because there wasn't transparency on these levels. But let's come back to intimacy, and how does that connect to money? Why is intimacy and money connected at all?
Well, it's the same thing. Intimacy.
Intimacy and money, the same thing.
So we need to understand that intimacy is the environment in which conception takes place. It's the environment in which manifestation takes place. And so it is that moment where both parties agree on the same frequency level that what needs to happen is to bring forth life, to produce something in accordance to what is in heaven. And so on the same frequency level, where do I come from with that? So just practically in nature, if you look at how nature works, the little soon-to-be wifey bird, for instance, the female bird, she sits and she watches all the male birds strut their stuff. They come show off all their bright colors, they come show off their dances, and through that, she just sits there in rest, checking them out, not batting an eyelid, and judging them. And so, do they have the stamina? Do they have the DNA? Do they have the character? Do they have the same frequency? Because all of those things are just frequency. Color is frequency, sound is frequency, dance is a rhythm, it's frequency. And so she's just checking out, do they synchronize with my governmental frequency? And from there, you go into, now conception can take place. Now we can birth the next generation. Now we can birth a blueprint. We can bring we all take responsibility now, because if she partners with that male, they both take equal responsibility to see this thing through. They are both transparent in a way that they know what their needs are. They can communicate those needs. They take there's accountability there to say, okay, we both need to engage over this. It's not only I that govern and you that follow. There's an essence of dealing. And so this is what finances come down to. We facilitate the manifestation of heaven on earth through the partnership or the marriage between time and energy. So you become the creator of something, but you facilitate the marriage, the ceremony between time and energy. Does that make sense? And so there's a platform that needs to be established. You don't just get married anywhere. There's a foundation. It's either in a chapel, it's in a church, it's in front of a judge. There is a governmental structure there. The church is a governmental structure. And so you create a foundation onto which both parties, time and energy, step, and they come into agreement with what the vows are for that ceremony. And those vows then is the covenant, which is the blueprint, which will then go over into manifesting. If the foundation is not right, if the vows aren't right, the frequency will not be right, and time and energy will not be able to connect with one another and manifest what you have. And so it comes back to being equally yoked again. Time and energy will only equally yoke them with you and what you have if you equally yoke yourself with Father and what He has. And so it is just, it's a circle. It's the alpha omega. It's always circular. It's never linear. And so that is why money is time and energy. That is why money is intimacy. And if we don't understand intimacy, we will never manifest heaven on earth.
Okay, my quietness is, whoa. Yeah, wow. It is, okay, for me, I'm going to be a little bit transparent now, but it almost feels like the whole infinity 8 kind of thing is starting to make sense, because it is, or the circle, like you said, the one can't go without the other. There's no beginning point, there's no end point. We can't have money without intimacy. We can't have intimacy with time and money. We can't have time and energy without a scroll and a blueprint. And we can't have a scroll if we're not partnered with God. And it is just all this continual, these things can't be separated. It can't be separated. We want to separate it. We want to, but money is one thing and my relationship is something else. With my relationship with God is something else. Well, anyway, that is how I was brought up, and there's intimacies for the bedroom. And if you say to some of my family members, fathers, mothers, that intimacy and money is the same thing, yeah, that's not going to go down well. But it is actually, once again, it goes back to that belief system, because this is creating a new belief system now. Because I need to be intimate with God. I need to be intimate with how I think about my time and my energy. I need to think differently about, and that goes back to the shop that we spoke about earlier. When I stand in front of the bread, which bread am I going to buy? But that is all looped into this one circle. It is all looped into intimacy, into a scroll, into a blueprint, into a, wow.
Yeah, 100%. So now, practically speaking, how do we apply this to, because intimacy then comes down to creating, which comes down to government, because if none of that is sorted out. And so how do we create a bench or a governmental seat? How do we partner there? So you need to check out the people you partner with. And the people who partner with you need to check you out. And so the fundamental principles needs to be transparency, accountability, and ownership. And so you need to also have a constitution written down to say that we will keep each other accountable and transparent to take equal ownership in this, to be a part of this, so that there's a document, because those are the vows that I will keep to this. And so we really need to learn how to steward that point of partnership. of marriage, of connecting to one another, that it's not unequal. Otherwise, hope deferred will be the case. Otherwise, it will be a really difficult relationship. And it will be difficult to raise and to grow what you are busy with. And so you need to start there. If you are going to get into partnership with somebody, your yes is your yes, your no is your no. And so you need to be very specific with your partner. Don't just get into bed and then jump out. This didn't work. You need to figure that out beforehand. Remember, love is a choice. If you choose to do so and you yoke yourself, then you need to see this through. If you unequally yoke yourself with people of different maturity levels, you're going to either father them or they are going to father you. Then you need to be teachable. And this is what this transparency is about, and being accountable is about. And so it also comes down to we need to steward how we talk. Because if you are going to speak life over something, that is a point of conception. That is a point of intimacy. And you need to understand that it is a powerful thing. It's like pulling the trigger of a gun. And that's why we said in an earlier episode that if you're going to give something to a child that is beyond their play grade, you might destroy it. Just remember that you can be that person. That when you speak something, you speak it into existence, you also need to govern it. So be aware what you are conceiving, what are you bringing into life. And so that we don't just willy-nilly speak. So it's the same thing. When we are going to understand that trading is every moment of your life, if we're going to understand that conception and bringing life is every moment you speak, then you realize that you need to govern a lot with a lot more intent and with a greater partnership and synchronicity with who God is. And so the question comes down to, do we do these things or don't we? And can we see the fruit of not doing it well, or do we see the fruit of doing it well?
I quickly want to, before we say goodbye, just go back to, you referenced to that verse in Proverbs a few times, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And because we've all been hope deferred at some point in our life. That has been, I think, a reality for many people, well, for most people. And I think there's also something that is, I'm starting to get an understanding, and we spoke about the scroll before, but our hope gets deferred when we do not have an understanding of this process, when we don't understand what the scroll says, that we are partnering, that we need intimacy, that, you know, there's this whole infinity ring thing that is happening here, that there's a whole, this is a wholeness, there is wholeness. And when we have an expectation outside the wholeness, that is when our hope gets deferred. You know, when it's not birthed from a place of intimacy.
And another way to just rephrase it, normally hope is deferred when we hope for results, which is Father's kingdom. So we hope for Father's promises, but we are not willing to walk according to Father's ways. And so Father cannot validate that. That's what happened with Cain. Cain brought in worship, and Father said, I can't even look upon it, because if I look upon it, it will multiply, and that will bring chaos, because what you bring to me as worship is not according to my government. It's what I actually said is condemned. And so it is about really understanding that we can hope for things, but it will never manifest unless we align those promises with Father's government. And so the second part of that scripture is, an idea realized is like a tree planted next to the river of life. And so an idea realized, it's the aha moment. It's when you go, this is actually the way I should approach this. It comes back to the tree. We've spoken about the tree, and really the source of supply. There's something, the result of the root. Doesn't fall far from the tree. Doesn't mean it's about the DNA. It's about where that tree is drinking from as a source of supply. And so the fruit will always reveal where it's drinking from. And so if we are drinking from chocolates and chips, we're going to manifest a body that is chocolates and chips. if we are drinking from Father's abundance and his life-giving substance, we will always produce that, and everything will want to partner with us. Because, newsflash, for those that don't know, heaven wants to partner with anything that resembles Father. They are attracted to it like a magnet. So the more you look like, sound like, talk like, walk like Father, the more heaven just flows towards you. You become a gravity, an absolute, yeah, they just want to partner with you. They will stand in line to partner with you. And then you can choose and pick the things that fit your calling, your blueprint, what you need to do the best. So that is why intimacy is so important, because what the eye beholds, you become. What the eye looks into multiplies. And so that is why that space is so important, and consistency, because whatever you focus on, you basically become.
Amen, amen, amen. On that high note, we're going to say goodbye for this week. Francois, once again, thank you. I'm going to practice intimacy and get my mind wrapped around the concept that intimacy and money is the same thing. But next time when we connect, we're going to talk about money, wealth, and finance. And is there a difference, or is it the same thing? So next time, let's do that. But in the meantime, bless you, regards to the family. And if you want to connect with us, please do so. All our details are in the description, and we look forward to connect again. Talk soon, Francois. Bye.
Bye.